So, this concept of a story, I call it the worth of reality. Now, from the title, you might think something like, I'm going to try to define a worth right off the bat. But this is more like a question, an open question that is to get you to think about it in a way that's like very simple. What is reality worth? How do you determine its worth? And it might seem kind of crazy at first, but sometimes you need like an experiment that can kind of get you into that frame of thinking. So a lot of times we use stories as ways of framing these experiments, these thought experiments. And one of the story ideas I come up with this one, there's many, but this one of them is kind of like, there's an anime that was called Sword Art Online, and it used a very simple concept of, if you die in the game, you die in real life. Nothing terribly complex. A lot of people really liked it for various reasons, whether it justified their playing of video games, gave them relevance, and like, oh, if I really train hard at video games, I might have some type of actual worth. But I'm not getting to hear their people's power fantasies. There's a way better way to use this concept, and this is how it kind of goes. Similar idea that you're trapped in a game. At least that's what's said. So you take a group of people, let's say 10,000, 20,000, really large number of people, and you trap them in a video game. But unlike Sword Art Online, in like this like maniacal whatever weird thing that had like no real why the guy do it, type things, like the villain, is he really a villain, or is he just a crazy person, what was their real motive? It was very ambiguous, and even when you got to like further stuff, it was just like, it didn't seem like it made sense. There was no cohesion in a way. And so like what I'm trying to get at is like that story had like plot holes in it that if you thought about it for a second and been like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But like I say, overall, I'm not trying to make this about attacking this anime. It's more like you could have took this vehicle and done a lot with it, and that's what we're going to do. A lot with it. So, you trap the people in this video game. At least that's the concept that you as the reader start off with. But before that, you have like the setting of the scene where like everyone's like, enjoying themselves in the video game. It's really popular, it's fun, it simulates all these things, no real different than Sword Art Online. And then, the big baddie comes in or whatever the thing and says, you're trapped in the video game because people realize they can't leave, right? But then the guy, or whoever, whatever you want to call him, sits there and says, and this is the critical key difference, he tells them, you can leave this game whenever you want. You go over here, you press a button, and you will leave the game. Oh, but by the way, 50% of you or more are already dead. Your bodies are already gone. And now you ask the question, who's going to press that button? What is the reality worth to you? Is it worth gambling the reality you have for a reality that you think you know? The reality you want to return back to, if it's even there. And that makes the game far more interesting. And then you also add, if you die in the game, you die in the game and you are automatically sent back. And maybe your body's there, maybe it's not. So dying in the game is still effectively pressing that button. Are you going to press that button? You could already be dead. And thus this is the only reality you have left. What do you do? Do you strive to protect that reality? Do you, plead with the game developers or whatever to make mods, add new content, improve the game because it's the only game you have? And that would be a far more fun concept when it comes to ascertaining what reality is worth. What is it worth to you? What if there's a better reality out there? Do you risk it? And that's kind of the question. Some might say, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. It's kind of like similar difference. Is the reality that you're in better than the reality that's beyond? What if there is no reality that's beyond? And then you start going through that but that's a real way of asking the question. Now, with this story, this one I actually run a little bit different. It's actually far more insidious. First off, when the person says 50% or more, they're not lying. And this is the fun part. Because 100% is 50% or more. In other words, if someone says 50% or more, it could literally mean 100%. because you don't think about it that way. So what the person's doing is they're giving you the idea or the belief that there is hope, even though there is no hope. And in other words, everyone in this game is already dead. They're all basically in a pre-life or an afterlife, however you want to view it, effectively using a game model. And the thing is with this type of story is that it's even more fun than that, because there's even more to add to it, because again, the other concepts about universes and like existences and eternal universes and that type of stuff, but this is more like a universe, once again, that could not create the eternal seed, the eternal child of mana, whatever you want to call it, the eternal tree of life, lots of terms, but could not reach eternity. So what the universe said for their answer was, well, if we can't have eternity, we might as well make whatever we have last as long as possible. And they made the calculation that it was too expensive to live in real reality. So they decided to basically give everyone a fake reality to live in as long as possible, because it took less energy or whatever their reasoning or calculus. So rather than living in a real reality, they chose to live in a fake reality longer. And this kind of is a great question of what is reality worth? If it's not continuous, what is it worth? Do you want more of it even though it's not going to last? That's the individual question it's asked. And of course in my story, I go through individual characters and their own answer to this question, but here I'm just posting out the story and saying the concepts out loud in a very quick and easy format. So when it comes this one, everyone's already dead. The calculus is already made. They're just existing in a universe, in a fake reality of that universe as long as possible. So they were never ever given even the choice of being in reality, but they're given the hope that there is reality on the other end. They might be one of the lucky ones. So some people might rush to push that button. Others would say, no, I'm going to kind of wait till this game's out and maybe press the button. And some people might think, well, what if my body's rotting on the other side? I gotta press the button. But the question comes down to, what do you do? And like I say, some people choose different things, some people choose others. But at the end of the day, it is just a personal choice. There's really not a right or wrong answer necessarily. And probably the more interesting stories are those who try to gather the information before they press that button. So that's the smarter answer. If you press the button and you know your body's not on the other end, why press the button? But if you find out, you don't have a body on the other end, you find out there's no civilization on the other end, there's no this heaven or whatever, or this place that had your original family. Oh, and by the way, with the story, a lot of people were planted fake memories and or the idea that they don't know about the truth. In other words, they come here thinking they came from another world, kind of like a Matrix style, but not so much some machines are controlling you. It's people made a conscious choice to say, yeah, I want my memories wiped. I want to be put into this machine and not know. Or a lot of people might have been born into the machine. And the other thing about birth is if two consciousness, make a new consciousness, that's a birth, but it never had a body to begin with. Lots of fun concepts. And that's why when you run these stories, the fun or interesting stories are the people who try to first find out if there's something on the other side. And then when they find out there isn't, they might want to find out why that was done. Why would your own people forsake you in this way, that put you in this, digital prison? And then you find out actually the universe is, going to die or something like that. And this was their only option because it couldn't figure out a way of prolonging the universe. So this was the way to, stretch a dollar. They were stretching their resources as far as they could, and this was their answer. And then you sit there and say, were the people who made this digital prison right, or were they wrong? Even though they gave you a choice to leave whenever you wanted, were they right for making the prison, or were they wrong for making the prison? Should they have never made the prison and let reality end when it was going to end if they didn't, save their resources? Or should they have made the prison and allowed more consciousnesses to exist and more life to expand, even if it's not in a real universe? What is the right answer?